Weekend.
More openings are expected in the coming months in New York, which legalized recreational use of marijuana in March of 2021. Mary Corsetti, Fox News.
A California sheriff's deputy was shot and killed Thursday while trying to stop a car. Authorities say the suspect was later killed. The motorcycle deputy has been identified as Isaiah Cordero. I'm Jessica Stone. This is Fox News.
Check out the newest hydro and garden center to hit Guam, Crop King Hydro. We have a huge selection of plant nutrients, soils, hydroponic mediums, organic pest control pumps, plant support, tools, and so much more. Call 635-4769. 635-GROW. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 6 at the Dededo Satina Mall, right across from Payless and Paradise Fitness. For whatever you grow, think Crop King Hydro. Crop King Hydro.
Happy holidays, Guam. From now through January 13th, the Guam Visitors Bureau is giving you a chance to win $150 in cash just by sharing your Christmas spirit. Each week, GVB will announce the theme of the week, so take your best photo or video and upload to visitguam.com/Instaguam to enter for a chance to win $150 in cash. Winners will be announced every Friday. Brought to you by GVB, making Guam a better place to celebrate the season of giving.
Joyce Broadcasting introduces their unbeatable lineup of morning show.
Hands down winners of Guam's morning radio battle.
Daryl Lizama grooves his way through Boss 104 playing Guam's favorite classic hits.
Morning Mouth Ray Gibson shakes the cage on 93.3 The Point.
And now, we are proud to announce the Morning Blender with Kyle Mandapat, mixing it up at sunrise on Star 101.
If you're an advertiser trying to reach the most valuable ears, we've got the shows that listeners have been tuning into for decades.
One call gets all three.
671-888-7346. That's 888-REIO.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, especially on Tall Tales Friday, Jose.
That's correct, sir.
Tall Tales is the day that we wear our Class A uniforms around the island. Show off the brand, right, Jose?
Yes, sir.
And we carried on through Saturday also, right, Jose?
Absolutely.
Oh, you got it down pat today, Jose.
I'm full of affirmations. Give them to me.
Absolutely. Yeah, Tall Tales is the best show in the afternoon on at least the Western Pacific, right, Jose?
You say it straight, Bob.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I could sit around and listen to answers like that all day long, Jose, but I probably ought to get to the substance of the program, right?
That's the first truthful thing you said today. I mean, welcome to Tall Tales.
No, that's a gaffe right there. The definition.
That one snuck in. I don't know what happened.
The definition of a gaffe is when a when a politician accidentally tells the truth.
It slipped out.
Yeah.
How about that news where they're talking about that congressman who flubbed and fabricated everything? And we have one who's the president.
Yeah, George Santos. Well, maybe he's just laying the foundation for his own run for the front office. Huh?
Absolutely.
And we have a George Santos here on the island, fairly notable person, who goes by the name of the Gas Man.
Ooh.
Because his middle initial is A, G-A-S, the Gas Man. So I just want to make it clear that when we're talking about George Santos and his lack of truthfulness, we're not talking about the Gas Man.
No, the other one is just a big bag of gas.
He's nothing but gas, that's true. All right, let's see what we got for Zemi Cotney today. Of course, I already know. Nuevo na palabra pago. The title of today's editorial in the Daily News is Sagan Kinahadza. Sagan Kinahadza. Well, Sagan, that's pretty easy. It means a place of, right? Kinahadza. The story tells us that it means a redemption. It's a place of redemption. But, boy, it was a strange word for me. if any of our tailgaters out there have a different gloss on that word, Kinahadza, I'd like to hear about it. Post it or call or whatever. Anyhow, the title is Our View, Sagan Kinahadza is critical addition to Guam's addiction recovery resources. And it goes like this. It's no secret that addiction and substance abuse are amongst Guam's most detrimental social issues we face as a community. The effects of addiction are often cyclical, even generational, posing numerous challenges for mental health service providers and medical experts who work on the front lines of the war against drugs and alcohol every day. The consequence of substance abuse have far-reaching and long-lasting effects on those ensnared in these cycles of addiction and recovery, effects that harm the abuser and those closest to them. Whether it be illicit drugs, pharmaceuticals, alcohol, or other substances and habits, Guam's mental health and drug treatment facility community has been making great strides in providing the resources, therapy, treatment, and services needed by those living the fight for sobriety. Really? I didn't know that. Did you, Jose?
Did not.
The effort in the war against addiction will be taking on a new front with the innovative teamwork of Jeremiah Santos and Brandon Flaherty, who have founded and are preparing to open Sagan Kinahadza, a sober living home created especially for those in addiction recovery. Set to open in early 2023, Santos and Flaherty, who both work in the mental health profession as substance counselor and behavioral health peer specialist, respectively, are self-funding the sober living home without the help of government agencies and funds. Let's give them a big hand, Jose. Yeah, when I first started reading this, the first word that popped into my head was grant. They got some kind of lucrative grant from the national government, and they're taking off and doing this. So that's great. If they're doing it themselves, that might be the kind of charity that I might want to contribute to, Jose. The founders are planning to open Sagan Kinahadza to both men and women and will have similar rules to residential treatment programs, including weekly drug and alcohol tests. However, treatment and counseling services won't be provided, although residents will be required to participate in an aftercare program, attend recovery meetings, and pay rent. We feel our island and our peers need a place like this as soon as possible. We can't wait any longer. People out there are dying from the disease of addiction, and they need help now, Flaherty told the Daily News. We applaud the founders of Sagan Kinahadza for selflessly launching such an important resource for our addiction recovery efforts. They say, here in Guam, why do they keep doing that? Here in Guam, like, what are we talking about?
Perhaps they think with the name Sagan Kinahadza, it could be in Saipan.
I suppose.
Don't want to confuse.
They always got, here on Guam, like we're someplace else. It's really amazing. We applaud the founders of Sagan Kinahadza for selflessly launching such an important service for addiction recovery efforts here in Guam. Why don't you stop at the word efforts? We urge our behavioral health specialists and substance abuse providers to learn more about the sober living home and all that we can do to support its success. Well, I could see maybe what they're doing, a place for folks to bunk on the condition that you can't be doing drugs there, you can't bring drugs in, and I suppose you'd have to be sober when you checked in. And perhaps transportation to Oasis and some of these other places, things like that are probably pretty hard for a lot of the folks that stand around begging for money to buy drugs with. So that makes a certain amount of sense. I wish them the best. I don't see this as an editorial. I see it as a really nice news story.
Lifestyle piece.
Yeah, but what can you do if you don't have the ability to put out editorials? Okay, today's secondary editorial op-ed comes from no place other than Candid. And the title is Editorial, Waiting Desperately for Doug Moylan to Take Over. They can't wait for leaving on January to be out of here. Doug Moylan's first day back as the elected Attorney General can't come soon enough. With Moylan's election came hope that corruption finally will be prosecuted, that consumers actually be protected, and especially that law and order will be restored. Guam police officers are in hot pursuit of a man who rushed into Q-Mart in Talafofo Tuesday and shot the store attendant in the midst of robbery. He ran back into the passenger side of a double cab, white Toyota truck, and the truck fled. The running joke is that it may be better for the police to capture the suspects after the new year. That's because Doug Moylan will replace Levin Camacho at 8:30 a.m. on January 2, 2023. Boy, Doug Moylan is going to start the new year before Tall Tales does. It's okay, though.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's all right. Leaving, and then the sentence goes on to say, leaving no room for Camacho-style plea deal once Moylan is back at the helm. And criminal justice is no joke to Doug. Candid, from January to August this year, tracked the magistrate complaints the Office of Attorney General pursued against defendants accused of violent crime. By mid-August, there were 346. Many of those charges were reduced or dropped via plea bargain. Levin Camacho gave a suspect in an aggravated assault case a free pass from jail, even though his fingerprints were all over the gun in that case and in a related murder case. He even gave sex offenders deals. We tracked these violent crime magistrates until it was simply too cumbersome to do so. For months, days in and days out, we checked the court calendar every day for updates on every single one of those cases. More than 90% of the time, hearings on these cases were postponed. We asked the AG, which has a dedicated public information officer, for assistance in simply receiving updates from the prosecution division on where each case was in the system. The OAG spokesperson told us that despite these being public information and the fact that the Office of Attorney General produced and received all of the updates on each of these cases, Mr. Camacho's office would not help us to inform the public of the status of these cases. Now, of course, you can't help but throw several wisecracks out right here. Of course he's not going to help. You know, he doesn't want everybody to know what a crappy job he's doing. Certainly not.
I see a port job in the future.
Uh-huh. They wanted us to go through the tedious process of requesting the court's clerk to daily look up for each of these cases and provide us with the documented updates. The court charges a $4 research fee for each case you request them to look up and $1 per page for each release of updates. Imagine that. The OAG wanted us to pay $1,384 per day in research fees alone so we could see public documents that show what kind of work the OAG was doing on behalf of Guam citizens who survive the crime problem each day. Wow! I wish that Troy had come out with this before the election.
No kidding.
Yeah.
This is like incredible.
Yeah. Classic case of the silver bullet right here. Yeah, you know, I keep this handy. These were words that I lived by when I was in public life. And I'll read it. With public sentiment, nothing can fail. Without it, nothing can succeed. Consequently, he who molds public sentiment goes deeper than he who enacts statutes or pronounces decisions. He makes statutes and decisions possible or impossible to be executed. Want to know who said that? Abraham Lincoln at the Lincoln-Douglas debates, Ottawa, Illinois, 21 August 1858. With public sentiment, nothing can fail. Without it, nothing can succeed. So if you want to be, if you're a government official and you want to be effective, you got to remember who put you there and who will keep you there or kick you out. Public sentiment. And the best way to work on public sentiment, my own personal experience, if I could have your leave to be a little bit benedoso here, Jose, as though I ever needed anyone's permission. But one of the first things I did after I checked into my junky office down in Hagatna was to fire up a website. And everything that I did was on that website. Every single thing. Every penny that I spent, every penny that I reappropriated to someplace else in the government, there was a place called a resource locker. And every bit of hot news, even if it didn't concern me or the legislature, we'd dig it up and put it there. And oftentimes we beat the newspaper. Oftentimes the papers didn't even do it. Needless to say, people really loved it. As a matter of fact, we thought, when I set it up, we thought this will be a way that I could communicate with the public in some other manner than going through the media. Well, I was partially right, because it wasn't up for very long when the media started to use it as a resource.
You were doing double duty.
Exactly. So, you know, if we met at 11 o'clock at night, took votes, et cetera, at 6 o'clock in the morning, that stuff was all up on the website. Now, I had 2 really good employees at the time, 3 actually, and we didn't do 8 to 5. We worked when there was work to do. And if there was work to do, we got it done, and we got it done promptly and got it up on that website. So, you know, the difference between a spokesman and someone who understands public relations would be a blunder like this. You know, the perfect opportunity for leaving in January to mold public sentiment. And instead, what happened was others did it for him. I'll take some of the credit myself.
You can kind of say the spokesperson is part of that campaign and probably didn't want leaving to go back in the office.
Yeah.
According to their actions.
Yeah.
Or inaction.
Really. So, yeah, what a blunder. Imagine how many more violent crime defendants are back home or on the streets and committing more crime since our tracking stopped. The man who shot the Telefofo store attendant likely didn't become violent overnight. He very likely has an existing criminal record. There's a probability that he's one of this year's violent crime offenders, but on pretrial release. Leaving in January, when he was defending his record during the campaign, blamed judges for the releases. But Canada did more than simply track these cases. We listened in on the hearings we were able to catch, and what we found was astonishing. Some cases were dismissed because prosecutors didn't show up or weren't prepared. I kind of repeated that for us too. In several hearings, judges were waiting for prosecutors to show up. The presiding judge himself lectured several prosecutors, at one point lecturing, quote, "I don't know what's going on over there at the AG's office, but it was evident the AG was unprepared to take several cases to trial. Prosecutors and former prosecutors told Candid the problem was, are you ready for this? Can I have a drum roll? Leaving Camacho. Repeating, prosecutors and former prosecutors told Candid the problem was leaving Camacho. He simply didn't care about the prosecution division. He refused to give it more resources. He unethically leaned on prosecutors to charge certain cases no matter concerns with sufficient probable cause. He just wanted the media attention, several of his employees and former employees said. An exodus of prosecutors, including lead sex prosecutor Christine Tenorio, ensued because of Mr. Camacho's bad management and politics. We're seeing some of these cases unfold in court, and it hasn't been pretty for the OAG. Trials involving the infamous Red Jeep Jerry Kitchen scandal and the assault of Brian Mendiola have begun, and it's becoming clear as day that either the OAG charged the wrong person in both cases or prosecutors charge cases without they can't prove. Moylan has vowed to concentrate resources and attention on the prosecution division and to engage the media and the public on crime-fighting efforts. He said he wants to lead a transparent operation that assists the community in understanding where cases are in the criminal justice system. He wants to be held accountable for his duty to the public. And honestly, the day he returns to office can't be soon enough. I'm finally going to get a chance to use this guy today. And the coveted blue star goes once again to Candid News. All right, that takes Candid up to 10 blue stars. Congratulations,
Whether you agree with it
Troy.
or not, that's an editorial.
It is. Absolutely. You know, the temptation is to say, wow, Troy, if either of these two papers were really on their game, they'd make you a generous offer. And that's the way it ought to go. But then I cut myself short. We only got one guy out here. I don't want to see him jump into that swamp, without a life jacket on. That's probably what happened. The fact that Troy is independent and he doesn't have to please anybody is probably his greatest strength. And in the process of not pleasing anybody, he pleases everybody. Certainly me. Way to go, Troy. Okay, let's see what we got on the card for today. And let's take a short break, and then we'll check out the card.
Every company needs money to grow and take on the challenges 2023 will bring.
That's why Bank Pacific's commercial loan officers stand ready to help you.
We offer several programs tailored to assist companies to get to the next step or perhaps for a startup.
Including working with SBA or GITA.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches.
Bank Pacific.
We want to be your partner.
Equal opportunity lender. Member FDIC.
Credit conditions apply.
All three stations, all three morning shows. Thanks to all the listeners for Pika's Best, Choice Broadcasting has swept the top three best radio stations. The Point, Boss 104, and Star 101. Top three radio personalities, Kyle Mandapat, Ray Gibson, and Daryl Lizama. Put the power of Pika's Best to work for you. If you're an advertiser, call 671-888-7346 for information, rates, and packages. And let us get your message out to Pika's Best listeners with Pika's Best Broadcasters. And thanks for listening to Pika's Best.
Welcome back to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, Guam's single voice of reason. Call now, 888-TALK. That's 888-8255.
So here we go again on another Tall Tales Friday. And Brian, as you were, Jose Ted Pongo comes up with some pretty good stuff on about a daily basis, doesn't he, Jose?
He's a Jose.
Here's what he said today. Peter Santos' win record is about to take a dive. Yeah. As Peter was saying, it's gotten so easy to win cases. You know, he had a string going. It's kind of like shooting fish in a barrel. So let me read Jose's again. It is Peter Santos, so I better read it at least twice, right, Jose?
Go ahead.
Pete Santos' win record is about to take a dive. All right, this is what I got on the card for today. I've got the GOP versus Joe San Augustine. This picks up on Democrats versus Therese and Tony Babauta versus Therese. It's all about who's going to do what and to whom in the 36th Guam legislature. Tim has been really active on the renaissance of Jungle Watch. I'm glad to see it. It's a very valuable part of our community. So on the second item on the card is Tim versus abortion. And then I've got some national news, SCOTUS versus the rule of law, and syndicalism versus capitalism, which I hadn't got to, which has been on the card for a few days, and I haven't gotten to it yet. And it's not on the card, but I suppose I ought to try to work it in somewhere. I didn't see this until today. It's the BOA statement on failed override of Bill 291. BOA, the Bureau of Women's Affairs, also known as the Bureau of Abortion, under the leadership of Jane Flores, I suppose just can't help but gloat, right?
Bloat?
Gloat.
Oh.
Yeah.
Bloat with their gloat.
Yeah, because, 91 would have had an adverse effect on abortions on the island. It failed, so she's got something to be happy about, something to, your bill didn't get overridden, your veto didn't get overridden. That's because I'm down there at Adelup with the governor. We like abortion. So I'll see if I could work it in somewhere. Also yesterday, I didn't finish Idiot Leftist of the Year, and I'm going to just pick that up because I was talking about something I thought was kind of interesting, and I couldn't finish it. But the biggest idiot of the year, according to Town Hall, is the cable network MSNBC, and they went through all different kinds of machinations to tell you why that was. And then they mentioned Nicole Wallace, a former Republican, angry about being passed over for important jobs after a time in the Bush administration and having been denied a noticeable upper lip when she was born. That's pretty catty, right? Yeah. Anyhow, and I wanted to stop and talk about Nicole Wallace because I was pretty familiar with Nicole Wallace. Remember, I went back and worked in the McCain campaign in 2008. I really worked hard too. I was over there. I was over there opening the Brecksville, Ohio campaign headquarters, which was the kind of the magus of all of the McCain centers in the Cleveland area. I swept and swabbed and made coffee, ran errands, picked up VIPs at the airport, drove people around in 15 passenger vans, phone banked. I did everything. Obviously, I didn't work hard enough. So we were pretty familiar with Nicole Wallace and Steve Schmidt. McCain, of course, lost, and Steve Schmidt and Nicole Wallace were featured heavily in a movie, a Netflix called Game Change, which you may have seen. It was based on a book by Heilemann and Halperin, who wrote probably as good a books about presidential elections as you'll ever find. The last one they did was Game Change because what was his name? Heilemann, and what was the second guy's name? Yeah, let's see here. I had it right at the tip of my fingers. The other fellow kind of got crossways on a Me Too type situation and fell from grace. But it was a good book, a well-written book, but the movie was this incredible bashing of Sarah Palin. And, you know, if you hadn't followed the election, you'd think the only reason that McCain lost was because of Sarah Palin. And the two people that came out looking really good in the movie were Steve Schmidt and Nicole Wallace, both of whom were top advisors to the McCain campaign and to Sarah Palin. And I mentioned yesterday that Sarah was a small-town girl from a small town, probably a pretty good double-A ball player. She descended immediately into the majors, and Schmidt, and especially Wallace, didn't do her any favors at all. One of the first things they did was set her up with an interview with Katie Couric, and she flubbed it. Now, instead of doing that, they should have started her out with some of the hometown guys, some of the friendly guys, break her in slowly, but they didn't. And if you kind of followed along, it's kind of like they wanted her to fail. But as I mentioned, they were the heroes in this movie called, not in the book, but in the movie called Game Change. And my theory was that Heilemann and what was the other, what the hell was his name?
Halperin.
Halperin, yeah. Heilemann and Halperin engaged in what Robert Novak referred to as legal wiretapping. And the way legal wiretapping works is this. They want to get to the inside of an organization, but they need to have a man or two, person or two, them inside the organization to give them the real juicy stuff about what's going on. So they'll very carefully pick out a couple of targets and approach them and say, we're going to write this book. And in this book, you are going to come out as the heroes of this agency if you play your cards right. And here's what you need to do. You need to be our source. They agree. They got it all signed up. They set up their communications protocols, etc. And sure enough, when the book comes out, you know, the agency looks like hell, but two people look like really good guys in there. Legal wiretapping. So now you got some kind of inside dope there, right? Yeah. So Nicole went on to bigger and better things. That was the last time she ever did anything. She ever said boo. That it was not negative for Republicans because she was snapped up by guess who? PMSNBC. And now she's on NBC, PMSNBC all the time. So I guess it paid off for her if that's, you know, if that's what she's like. While we're talking about stuff like this, you know, here's something else that I think most people don't realize. If you ever watch Fox News, there was a show called Water's World. Pretty interesting, pretty funny. It's not there anymore. Waters kind of ratcheted up a notch. He's got his own show now. But Waters used to do is he'd catch people on the street and he'd poke a microphone in their face and he'd ask them questions and get some incredibly stupid answers. Like, which came first, World War I or World War II, sir? I think it was the Vietnam War. Or, can you tell me this? Can you give me the names of one of the combatants in the French and Indian Wars? ma'am. The Germans?
Who's buried in Grant's tomb?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, they were really, really dumb answers. And I remember it wasn't Waters, but it was another interviewer who caught somebody walking on the door of the House office building and stopped him and said, "Sir, Congressman so-and-so, would you send your son, would you allow your son to go to Vietnam?" And the congressman just, was just really taken, kind of caught off guard, and he just kind of stumbled and stammered and said, "I got to go." And it looked really, really bad, right? Like probably most of us would if you're asked a question like that when you're just, boom, there you are. Well, you think, gosh, how can people be so dumb? Well, here's the trick. Waters may have had to interview 50 people before he found the dummy that he wanted to put on the air. You don't see all of the ones where the answers are good. So you are gaslighted into thinking that this is a realistic sample. So that's why I spend a fair amount of time here on the show telling you about the media and some of the things that they do that we all really have to be on guard against and watch out for, because you can't trust any of them, not one of them. Okay, so put that away for today. And, even I was listening to the show after listening to the point after I left and caught the Kentucky Fried Chicken ad. And, well, I'll tell you what, even the Colonel is into the narrative, because, here it is. Once again, that picture of the rice in the bowl, you can tell it's orange. It ain't red, right? But the Colonel says he's been cooking red rice here for 35 years, and he says that some rabble-rouser is trying to convince you that the rice is orange.
How dare you?
Well, don't believe him. So, I don't know. I just got to work harder. I probably ought to do this more often, I guess. But anyhow, the next time you go to Kentucky Fried, do me a favor, huh? If you want rice, say, "And I want an order of orange rice." And then report back to me what kind of answer you get to that question. I don't know if, talking about ordering things in restaurants, I don't know if I told this story before, but traveling with a couple of grandchildren that really liked McDonald's McFlurries. If you've had a McFlurry, you know what they're like, right? So we were going through Wasilla, Alaska. Just Sarah Palin reminded me of that, right? That was where Sarah was from. So we pulled into a McDonald's in Wasilla and went inside, and I said, "I'd like 2 McFlurries." And the girl behind the counter automatically says, "For here or to go?" And I said, "1 for here and 1 to go." So she goes back to the mixer, etc. She comes back and puts them on the counter. She says, "Here's your McFlurries." Hey, wait a minute. Which one is for here and which one is to go? She looked at him with a really puzzled look on her face for a while, and then she said, "They're both the same." Programmed, right? All right, let's go into the card. First item on the card here is McNinch versus Swanson. And you'll recall when I covered this yesterday, I talked about Swanson versus Mark Mendiola, who didn't vote for anybody. He took the opportunity, instead of apologizing for missing one of the interviews, he took the opportunity to virtue signal instead. Yeah. And we were told in that article that the vote was 6 out of 7 votes cast went for Swanson. Now, you'd think a responsible journalist would have said, and the other one was, but no, they didn't. So my suspicious mind said, I'll bet that they did something stupid like secret ballot or executive session. So that means tomorrow morning I got to crank up my Sunshine Act demand machine and find out who that was. Well, I reviewed last night's KUAM, and guess what I found? Yeah, and this is what it says. It was a 6-1 vote. Those who voted in favor were Education Board members O'Connor, Gutierrez, Benavente, Crisostomo, Angel, and Bora. And I figured, okay, that's as far as they're going to go. I turned the page. Meanwhile, the sole this is what it says. The sole apposition, not opposition.
Apposition.
Apposition. For instance, my producer, Jose Martinez, came to work. Jose Martinez is an apposition to the words my producer. That's what apposition means. I hope it doesn't mean opposition. Anyhow, I'll read it the way it ought to read. Meanwhile, the sole opposition to Dr. Swanson's nomination was, drum roll, Jose, none other than university professor Dr. Ron McNinch. That's kind of a shocker, isn't it? Yeah.
Did they give a reason why?
Just says who it was. Now, I know that McNinch has made it public that he had to go off island for surgery, and that's why the Regency, had to postpone his appeal. It may very well be that we're dealing with inaccurate journalism again. It could very well be that McNinch, well, I don't know, there were two that were there that didn't get picked up in the count. I don't know. It's an interesting question. And I'd certainly like Ron to come out and tell us about it. And I don't want anyone to think that there's any condemnation here. When we have boards that come back with too many unanimous verdicts, I don't like it. Because if you have, for instance, our Supreme Court, we have three justices on the Supreme Court, and if there is a dissent every 2 years, it's a lot. Unanimous decisions, right? Well, if they're all going to be unanimous, we don't need three. We could just use one, if that's what we're looking for, and save a lot of money. So I think it's good to see when a board comes out with an important decision that was not unanimous, because that suggests to me care, analysis, avoiding things like not going along with the crowd, avoiding the old saw, Jose, about the nail that sticks up the farthest gets hammered down first. So, I probably tend to think Ron McNinch should be praised, but like you, if he would have shared with us the reasons, I would really like to know what that's all about, because it is an extremely important position, and I can tell you it's an extremely difficult position.
Now, I remember reading a comment, or I don't know if it was in the newspaper, that before in previous years they would reveal who the candidates are so we could at least see the names.
Yeah.
It didn't happen this time.
They did.
Oh, they did with all of them?
Yeah, all of them.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I'm wondering if he had one if they had a vote on anybody else or just this.
Well,
this
Robert Crisostomo had one. I can't remember who it is, of course. He nominated, and that candidate got 4 votes, so the nomination failed. Other than that, it was all Swanson all the time, apparently. But that would certainly be a reason to vote no. If you thought you had a really sterling candidate, and the other ones went along with a bum. Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? Okay, next item on the card is GOP versus Joe San Augustine, which picks up on... Oh, okay. Let's take a short break here, and we'll go to GOP versus Joe San Augustine.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to naktak, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tumon location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
Every company needs money to grow and take on the challenges 2023 will bring.
That's why Bank Pacific's commercial loan officers stand ready to help you.
We offer several programs tailored to assist companies to get to the next step or perhaps for a startup,
including working with SBA or GITA.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches.
Bank Pacific.
We want to be your partner.
Equal opportunity lender. Member FDIC.
Credit conditions apply.
All right, so here we go with the Republicans, the GOP versus Joe San Augustine. Now, you recall that I started this out with one of the articles that I read into the record was who should be the next Speaker of the Guam legislature. And the contenders are Therese Tetlahi and Joe San Augustine. And apparently the decision has not been made because we're very close to swearing in time, and they haven't announced their speaker. Amanda Shelton has come along and said, well, if there's no agreement, the article says she's the dark horse candidate, because if there's no agreement, she could be a compromise candidate, I suppose. Doesn't seem very likely, does it? And then, of course, I talked about the popularity of Therese Tetlahi, my own personal preference, the fact that obviously she got Republican help last time to depose Tina Rose Munga Barnes, who got a couple of pearls. In order to go along quietly into the night, she got rules and vice speaker. But the way it looks right now, I'm going to recast myself as the great Karnak and tell you I think it's very, very possible that we'll have a showdown on Monday morning. That the Speaker will say nominations are now open for Speaker of the Legislature, and you'll find Joe San Augustine and Therese Tetlahi. Yeah.
Maybe we'll have a gavelgate.
Yeah. So it may very well be that that 8 votes won't come forward for anyone. It's possible. Yeah, not likely. And more than likely, potential, or not more than likely, but possibly a potential coup. And, you know, I've got that dynamite confidential source who didn't even call in yesterday. He was probably out gathering more information for me. Yeah. So the intel I get, it's still deadlocked, and that either one of them would need 6 Republican votes to cross the line if everybody on the other side sticks together. Now, the last thing that the Democrats want would be a showdown, another Don Parkinson versus Tom Abbott, because that was extremely embarrassing for them. So that'd be the last thing that they want. So if it gets down close to that, you know, on Monday morning, you could see people pleading with one another, let's do this, let's compromise, otherwise we're going to fight this out, you know, in front of God the media and everybody else, and the Republicans will love it, and then it'll get them off to. We can't do that, you guys. We can't do that. So Therese or Joe, somebody has got to come in here for the good of the party.
And I'm willing to bet they're not saying that to Joe. They're saying that to Therese.
I suspect so. And then you'll recall that yesterday I had some intel that Senator Tony Babauta, who has gone won't Parkinson one better. Won't Parkinson was a senator-elect, and he started acting like a senator. Tony Babauta is not now, never has been, and as far as I can see, never will be a senator-elect, is throwing his weight around like he has been elected to the legislature, telling that according to this very accurate source, or very credible source, that the word has come out that anyone who replies on Republican votes to achieve an office in the 36 Guam legislature will be expelled from the party. Expulsion from the party means expulsion from the caucus. So that would be something, wouldn't it? If one of those two got Republican votes, became the speaker, gets kicked out of the party, and then can't caucus with the other members of her party.
What's his title of the party?
He's the party chairman.
Oh, so he's actually telling everybody that the Democrats have no intention with working with anybody else but them.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. That's who he elected in.
Yeah.
The majority.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mentioned yesterday is, somebody who's been there, the last thing I would want to happen, and the last thing I would ever allow, would be somebody who is not a member of that legislature to try to put some pressure on me to do something or not do something. Members, yeah, it comes with the territory. But a non-member, it doesn't. I don't care who it was.
Well, they allowed it for the past 3 years.
Exactly. They got used to it. They've been through intense training at the hands of our governor.
We have two branches of government here on Guam: the judicial and the administrative, the executive.
Exactly.
And the legislative is on a milk carton.
Exactly. Yeah, they take lessons every day in a discipline called learned helplessness, and they've really got it down pat too. Yeah. So Tony Babauta has kind of laid that out for them. I would think that anybody in the Democrat majority would be not just angry, but infuriated.
Insulted.
Exactly. So I'm going to go to, I haven't been to a session since the 28th was inaugurated. I had to go to that one.
Obligations.
Yeah. Although what I really wanted to do, I couldn't, no one wanted to go along with me. I said, why don't we just have a 10-minute ceremony? We'll all be sworn in. We'll thank the people for anybody who showed up, thank them for coming. But we had to adjourn because they had work to do, and we wanted to go straight to work working for them. But I couldn't get any support for that at all. But that was then, this is now. Okay, so picking up on, it's just about halftime, isn't it? Yeah.
About 20 seconds or so.
20 seconds or so. I'll just read the beginning of Jane Flores here. On behalf of women, girls, and all persons with a uterus on Guam and throughout Micronesia.
Wait.
All persons with a uterus.
Oh, that's
She says
interesting.
women, girls, and all persons with a uterus.
Wait, is that ownership?
Well, you have to stop and
possession?
ask now. When you said women and girls, you'd think that would be all you need to do is say all persons with a uterus.
But remember, some people procure abortions are like those that work in trafficking clubs, so
Yeah.
they probably own those uteruses.
Could very well be. And
They
then,
don't have to be women.
and then there are some women who don't have uteruses anymore.
Or never did.
Well,
Oh, yeah, no, anymore.
yeah. All right, let's break for that big halftime show. We got the Lou Leon Guerrero show today.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Record numbers of crossings at the southern border. I'm Jessica Stone, Fox News. CBP continues to report high numbers of illegal immigrants crossing that border. Fox's Matt Finn is in Eagle Pass, Texas.
In El Paso, northwest of Eagle Pass, there's 2 miles of new fencing and cargo containers installed. Governor Greg Abbott's office tells Fox News that Texas is going to new lengths to deter migrants amid yet another new record surge of illegal immigration. Texas DPS sources telling Fox News that between October 1st and December 29th, there were 617,000 encounters at the southwestern border. That's more people than the population of Baltimore. 186,000 migrants were expelled under Title 42, but 430,000 illegal immigrants or asylum seekers were released into the country, and there were 240,000 known gotaways that intentionally evaded surrender.
President Biden Thursday signed the $1.7 trillion bill to keep the government open through next September and provide tens of billions of aid to Ukraine. Democrats are calling on New York Republican Congressman-elect George Santos to resign over investigations into false claims he made about his past.
Fox has told GOP leaders will not address the Santos issue because they don't know who will be in charge. There are several investigations: the New York Attorney General, the Nassau County District Attorney on Long Island, and the feds from the Eastern District of New York. Now, among the questions, loans Santos made to his campaign while running for Congress. The Ethics Committee could launch an investigation, and under the Constitution, the House could decide to seat or expel Santos. Now, it takes a 2/3 vote to expel. The House has only expelled 5 members in history, 2 after their convictions.
Fox's Chad Pergram reporting. America is listening to Fox News.
Listen to The Point anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Find your favorite stations like The Point and discover more. Music stations, local and trusted news sources, sports talk and team coverage, plus today's biggest podcasts. Find it all on the Odyssey app. AUDACY.
Every company needs money to grow and take on the challenges 2023 will bring.
That's why Bank Pacific's commercial loan officers stand ready to help you.
We offer several programs tailored to assist companies to get to the next step or perhaps for a startup,
including working with SBA or GITA.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches.
Bank Pacific.
We want to be your partner.
Equal opportunity lender. Member FDIC.
Credit conditions apply.
A woman accused of shoving a 3-year-old girl off a Portland light rail platform will be held without bail. 32-year-old Brianna Workman was arraigned Thursday on charges of assault and reckless endangerment of another person. Prosecutors say video surveillance footage shows her pushing her daughter onto the tracks. The girl was rescued by a man nearby. Thousands of Twitter users are reporting error messages. Fox's Christina Coleman explains from Los Angeles.
Thousands of users worldwide had issues. Some people reported they couldn't view their tweets or had been logged out of Twitter or ran into error messages when they scrolled through their timelines. The issues impacted mostly desktop users. This happened just days after the company reportedly shut down one of its data centers in Sacramento. And that's just one of a number of changes since Musk purchased the social media giant for $44 billion in late October. Musk has laid off about half of the staff, including employees who maintain the network's infrastructure. He cited major cost concerns for the layoffs.
Musk says he fixed the problem and that the site should be moving faster now. And the designer of the punk look has died, Fox's Michelle Polino reports.
Vivienne Westwood, the fashion designer behind the punk rock movement in the 70s, has died at the age of 81. A post on her official Twitter page reads, Vivienne Westwood died today peacefully and surrounded by her family in South London. The world needs people like Vivienne to make a change for the better. The post included a pic of Westwood in a frock with a heart on top of script, alongside a quote from the Tao spiritual system. It read, Tao gives you a feeling that you belong to the cosmos and gives you purpose to your life. It gives you such a sense of identity and strength to know you're living the life you can live and therefore ought to be living. Make full use of your character and full use of your life on Earth. Michelle Polino, Fox News.
I'm Jessica Stone, and this is Fox News.
All three stations, all three morning shows. Thanks to all the listeners for Pika's Best, Choice Broadcasting has swept the top three best radio stations. The Point, Boss 104, and Star 101. Top three radio personalities, Kyle Mandapat, Ray Gibson, and Daryl Lizava. Put the power of Pika's Best to work for you. If you're an advertiser, call 671-888-7346 for information, rates, and packages. And let us get your message out to Pika's Best listeners with Pika's Best broadcasters. And thanks for listening to Pika's Best.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pika's Best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to naktak, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tuman location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
Happy holidays, Guam! From now through January 13th, the Guam Visitors Bureau is giving you a chance to win $150 in cash just by sharing your Christmas spirit. Each week, GVB will announce the theme of the week, so take your best photo or video and upload to visitguam.com/Instagram to enter for a chance to win $150 in cash. Winners will be announced every Friday. Brought to you by GVB, making Guam a better place to celebrate the season of giving.
At the Tall Tales Rogues Gallery, showing off these wonderful Tall Tales, these wonderful tailgater T-shirts like the one I'm wearing today. And I say the one I'm wearing today because I got 3 of them. You know, I don't want to run the risk of being in a situation where I got to go as a tailgater and not have a clean shirt.
Which one is your favorite tailgater T-shirt?
The black one.
Thank you.
You want to know what color the black one is?
What color?
It's actually black.
Oh, it's not orange.
Yeah. Yeah, so you too could be on the Rogue Telltales Rogues Gallery, and as is our usual custom, Jose's going to tell you just exactly what you got to do to get there. Go ahead, Jose.
Those who still want or still looking for a tailgated T-shirt can point their browser to thepoint.gu. And that's our official website for The Point. And click on the link of the T-shirt and the beard. It'll take you to the purveyor's link. Order the T-shirt. Put the T-shirt on when it arrives. Take a selfie in your T-shirt. And then send that selfie to The Point's WhatsApp at 671-797-8255. If you're watching a live stream on YouTube or on Facebook, the link is already in the comments.
You know, I can't think of a better way to start a new year, Jose, than wearing a tailgater T-shirt.
I concur. I will be wearing mine on New Year's.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if I were, you know, even back in my drinking days, I never went out drinking on New Year's Eve. It's amateur night, not a safe night.
You will not have to call the bartender. He will see you, or she will see you automatically in your tailgater T-shirt.
Absolutely, and probably will give you the best service of anyone there. Yeah. Okay, so much for tailgater T-shirts. Let's make 2023 the year of the tailgater, if it isn't already. Now, I started out on GOP versus Joe San Augustine, but I'm going to change the order of the card here. I'm going to go to Tim versus abortion next, because I'm going to do that right after the Lou Leon Guerrero show, which Jose is going to pop up for us right now, and I'll give a short explanation after we watched it.
Chair and members of the committee, good afternoon. My name is Lilian Guerrero, and thank you so much for the opportunity to share with you some of my thoughts and comments regarding Bill 195-32. I am aware that there is already federal legislation that addresses the issue at hand, thus making this legislation unnecessary. As I read the bill, what was glaring to me is that you are now walking into the realm of medical practice that is not your area of expertise. By passing this bill, you're saying to me that you are allowing a special interest group to say that you and they know better than the experts in obstetrics, family practice, pediatrics, neonatology, and medicine. By way of this bill, you have taken away the discretion, the responsibility, the acumen, and the judgment of that medical professional who is on the ground experiencing the circumstances and is more equipped to make the decisions. There are medical standards vetted through scientific research and medical knowledge that govern the practice of doctors and guide them in making their decisions. By way of this bill, you have said to our doctors, who are well respected and highly regarded in our community, we have no confidence in your ability. This bill not only diminishes the medical profession, but it further carries them to jail by criminalizing them if they refuse to abide by the mandate. By way of this bill, you have affirmed that doctor to have committed aggravated murder, and for that crime, we will put that doctor in jail for life. And by the way, they will rot in jail because you are not eligible for parole, work release, or educational programs outside the confines of prison. If this bill passes, we as a community, through your representation, will have mandated a government policy that ignores medical expertise and puts not only our doctors, but also our nurses, medical assistants, our physician assistants, and any health professional present at that event, and we're putting them in jail. These health professionals are treasures. They are valuable resources. We are working hard to recruit and retain them, and now we send them a message that they may end up in jail for practicing their profession. I know and truly believe, Senators, that this is not the route you want to travel. This bill is very anti-quality of life, because it does not consider the expense that the family will incur as a result of mandating treatment that most likely will not result in a quality of life outcome for the infant. Instead, what this bill does is it will burden the family with enormous medical bills. On the conservative side, if care and treatment is given for a year, that family or the government, if the infant becomes a ward of the territory, will at a minimum pay $273,000 a year just on hospital room charges. This does not include pharmaceuticals, medical supplies, and health professional time. So it will be $273,000 plus a year. This means taking away limited resources that could be used by others that may have a better chance of a quality of life. I know that some will say you cannot put a price tag on life and money should not be a factor. But the reality of the situation is the family, the government, does not have the human and economic resource to provide the care that is required to sustain a life that medical science will tell you is not living a quality of life. You struggle daily to meet the challenges of healthcare cost. We saw that with the hospital and health insurance debates that you guys made. And now this bill will further add on to the challenges when it does not have to. Lastly, I would like to make this comment. We all have a greater challenge in our island. The community's more concerned on how we can decrease our unemployment rate of 13.3%. We are very concerned on how we can work together to provide more jobs because our job growth has been stagnant over the last 5 years. We are very concerned about access to health care. We are very concerned that we are not screaming to the federal government to include us in the health insurance exchange so that we can have affordable health care to everyone. We are very concerned about how we can provide affordable housing to many first-time home owners. We are extremely concerned about the rising crimes we see today. People do not feel safe in their homes. Women are scared to go to the grocery stores alone because they fear that they could be robbed in the middle of the day. Employees do not feel safe in their work environment. Domestic violence is on the rise. Sexual assault of minors and rape cases are on the rise. You have in your campaigns pledged to work on these issues. You were all voted to help address these concerns. The issues you ran on were why you are my senators. Most of the voters did not vote for you based on whether you are pro-choice or pro-life. Please, let's get back on track to the more compelling issues at hand that have a greater impact to the quality of life of our people. I ask that when you are considering this bill to seriously consider the negative consequences of this piece of legislation that I have just enumerated. Please talk to as many people as you feel is necessary. Talk to the experts that can give you factual and objective information. I trust that you will do your due diligence, and I know that you will act in favor of the greater good of our community. And in so doing, you will arrive to the conclusion that this bill should not pass. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much.
So there you have it. We play this once a week, every Friday. And what Lulian Guerrero, before she was governor, was testifying on was a bill that said that if a baby survived an abortion, that it would be a criminal offense for medical personnel not to provide the necessary medical care for that baby to have a chance to live. I suppose it's in a sense, it's a warranty case.
Not even just medical attention, basic attention.
Basic attention.
Imagine if the baby was meant to be born, was not up for abortion, but they just left it there after birth. It would be the same thing.
Same thing, yeah. So I suppose Leland Guerrero would characterize this as a warranty case, that when the patient signs up for an abortion, there's a warranty that the baby won't be alive.
Guaranteed.
Yeah. And so if the baby somehow survives the procedure, Well, then in order to fulfill the terms of the warranty, the baby must be allowed to die. I don't see how you can describe this without using the word infanticide. That a newborn baby, if you're talking about, an adult, it's a little different. For instance, if you are walking past a swimming pool and you see a mature person in the swimming pool, obviously drowning, and you don't do anything, you know how much liability you have, Jose? None at all. But if you attempt to save that person and then abandon it, then you got a problem. So there's no duty to go out and save another human being, even if you can. But we're not talking about just an average human. We're talking about a helpless, innocent newborn, and the cold-heartedness of someone who says, well, that baby was supposed to be aborted, so we'll just let it die. Yeah.
And I might be turning the screws a little worse here, but that's a decision that's made on the fly. This testimony was decisive.
Exactly.
There was thought put to it.
Exactly.
And then there was time put to typing it up, because it's typed and submitted to the legislature, and then time taken to sit in front of a mic and give that same testimony. This is eerie.
It is. It is.
And shuddering.
And hypothesizing a little bit, suppose a baby that had not been subjected to an abortion wound up in the same situation. Born, but with problems. Would we say, well, we checked the baby and, due to the prenatal stuff we did, we know this baby's going to have severe medical problems, so we'll just let him die.
And why stop there? What about all people with the qualities of life that are lower than her threshold?
And then, of course, you can't go very far with infants until you go to the other end of the spectrum. They are so old, one person, they are so old, and they got so many diseases, and it costs so much to keep them alive, and that they have no quality of life. They're bedridden, they can't do anything else. Why don't we just stick a needle in that person's? Remember Dr. Kevorkian, assisted suicide? Yeah.
Dr. Kermit.
Yeah.
That was a real case in Maryland where he was doing these types of abortions. We're talking hypotheticals right here, but there is a real case that happened on Guam where a mother gave birth and instantly put that baby into a plastic bag and it suffocated. And I remember it was big news. But what you didn't hear were all these pro-aborts running to her defense.
No.
Not a single one.
No.
And I imagine there would never be a defense for that.
No. And of course, when you come down to it, it's indefensible. The whole pro-abortion rap is indefensible. And in order for people to live with it, one, if you're an OBGYN, you don't do them because even pro-aborts have the remnants of a conscience somewhere stuck inside their brain housing group. So you don't do them. And if you're the Jane Florises or Lulian Guerreros or Vanessa Williams, you come up with these elaborate sophistry to somehow defend the indefensible. That's what it amounts to.
And yet another analogy from Jose. Imagine the slave trader going, I personally don't believe in keeping slaves.
I'm in favor of property rights.
But I have a couple for sale here.
Yeah.
They're not mine.
Yeah.
But I'll sell them to you.
Exactly.
That's what a pro-abort huckster does.
Really. And then, of course, we can't leave this without going back to the caller who told us that she went to one of the two abortionists that used to be here, who told her that his business was really off after the Blue House raid closed down because the prostitutes were not coming for abortions because they weren't prostituting themselves anymore. It's a very nice group of folks. I was going to, as I said, I was going to go to the GOP versus Joe St. Augustine, but I think it'd be more appropriate to go to Tim versus abortion right here because it ties in so nicely. And this is something that Tim just cranked out today regarding the failed override of the governor's veto of the Heartbeat Act. And he titles it, Just Some Thoughts. It was always known that should the Heartbeat bill make it through the legislature, that Guam's most vociferous and powerful proponent of abortion for more than 3 decades, and who is now the governor, would veto it. And it was also known that there would never be enough votes to override the veto. As set forth several times previously in this blog, the heartbeat bill at the time was introduced was a good move and the best that pro-life advocates could do under Roe. The heartbeat bill also followed in the footsteps of 8 Esperanza projects, which are online. The trick with the Esperanza project is Esperanza is spelled with a penultimate S instead of a Z. And I suspect that because somebody else got to the Z first, right? So it's ESPERANSA project. And there's some really good stuff in the Esperanza project. 8 projects, 8 followed in the footsteps of 8 Esperanza project-backed bills that were enacted into law, all of which incrementally combined to shut down Guam's abortion industry in 2018. However, the Dobbs decision overturning Roe changed all that. It's now possible to completely ban abortion, and that will be the bottom line for the 37th Guam legislature. No more beating around the bush. No more half measures. No more, I am personally pro-life, but which is the most insidious one of all.
We heard that today in one of the news articles.
Yeah. The Heartbeat Act, even if enacted into law, would not have banned abortion after detection of a fetal heartbeat. It simply permitted civil suits against certain persons involved in the abortion. Any senator who was truly pro-life at the time of Dobbs was decided, June of 22, should have immediately introduced a bill to wholly ban abortion or remove the injunction of the 1990 Bell's Law. But no one did. And they probably didn't because they know what Jane Flores knows. Quote, "We are very glad that the override failed because this bill does not reflect the will of the people," said Jane Flores, director of the Guam Bureau of Women's Affairs. I'll repeat that quote. "We are glad that the override failed because this bill does not reflect the will of the people." Flores points to many more testimonies against the bill and for it, but that does not reflect, quote, "the will of the people." The real will of the people is reflected in Guam voters electing and re-electing Guam's most vociferous and powerful proponent of abortion for more than 3 decades. In short, the election and re-election of Lulian Guerrero demonstrates that the majority of Guam voters want abortion, even though the primary target of abortion for decades has been Chamorro babies and the incremental but absolute destruction of a Chamorro future. There it is.
That graphic that he included from real data, and this is just of the reported abortions, between 2006 and 2018, 1,500 Chamorro babies aborted. The next data point is 300, and that's those who are identified simply as Asian.
Yeah.
Between 1,500 and 300. That's a stark number.
It is.
And we're advocating for this.
Exactly.
By electing these officials in.
Yeah, well, you have to have a mouth that has 2 very distinct sides. And on the left side, abortion is a really wonderful thing. A woman has a right to her own body, its freedom, its privacy, etc. And then on the other side of your mouth, you say, you know, the Chamorro people are really great. It's kind of hard, but you have to be able to talk out of both sides of your mouth to make that one work.
And Belle Areola said it when she wrote this bill. What's the use of perpetuating our indigenous culture when there's none left to perpetuate it?
If we're going to kill them all. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's really a sad thing. It's a sad, sad thing. And I have to keep coming back to, what Tim taught me. The real there's only one real question here, and that's, when is it okay to take the life of a helpless, innocent human? And the answer is always the same: never. It's never okay. There's never a justification. Unless you're a Democrat running for governor, and then apparently it's okay. All right, let's head for Wrigley Field. When I come back from Wrigley Field, I'm going to pay a little attention to Calamity Jane here.
Every company needs money to grow and take on the challenges 2023 will bring.
That's why Bank Pacific's commercial loan officers stand ready to help you.
We offer several programs tailored to assist companies to get to the next step or perhaps for a startup,
including working with SBA or GITA.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches.
Bank Pacific.
We want to be your partner.
Equal opportunity lender. Member FDIC.
Credit conditions apply.
Everyone has a busy schedule these days, and sometimes we forget to schedule our routine dental checkup and cleaning. Don't neglect your dental health. Schedule one today with Dr. Robert Yang and his Smile Team, conveniently located at the East West Business Center on Marine Drive, Upper Tumon. Call us today at 647-8702 or 3. Again, that's 647-8702 or 647-8703. We make smiles happen.
So here we are, Wrigley Field in Chicago, the world's most beautiful ballpark. 400 feet to the center field wall, Jose. This looks like I got somebody wanting to climb into the green room here. Let me wait for a second before I go to... It's none other than Another Joe. What do you want to talk about now, Another Joe? Compact Impact?
I'm so sorry. I really didn't want to interrupt. I was hoping I could just listen to you, but that's okay. When you were talking, started talking about. But anyway, so with all due respect to the governor, she isn't following her own rules. Where are you basing it on? The facts, the science, the data. We saw it with the COVID, right? The emotion, the feeling is overpowering, and what better time to make the best use of, was it chaos? When it's chaotic. So it just, and they're saying that they have to base it on the only factor they want to believe is fear, and they've already preordained or they've already found the conclusion because everything is to be feared. Is it truly? Is it always to be feared? I'm not saying it never should be feared, right? It's like the boy that cried wolf. But is it always to be feared? No. They're constantly fear this, fear that, and we'll decide what you fear. So, and because you have this fear, you can't make decisions. We'll make it for you, and don't disagree with us or else. So it's either intimidation. Well, that's something to fear, right? Their intimidation. Or we're going to prove that you're not worthy of a decision. They're going to demonize. Is what I'm trying to say. The devil is the reason. And men who rape or get women pregnant and they don't want to be pregnant, they're the devil. They have no right to an opinion. Anyway, Bob, that's pretty much. It's like common sense, but. Like why would you have to say it when it's just common sense? But they make up their own facts and what is common sense. So anyway, I'll let you continue. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Jose. Another Joe. Of course, when we talk about why they do it, you have to come back to Vanessa Williams and all this talk about a woman's right to choose, bodily integrity, privacy, etc. Vanessa Williams really lays it out, what really goes through the mind of the pro-aborts when she says it's impossible to separate our choice of whether and when to have children from every other choice in our lives. For the pro-aborts, there's no valuation of decisions. The decision as to whether or not to have fish or beef for dinner is of equal weight as to whether or not to abort a helpless, innocent human inside your body. It's impossible to separate our choice of whether and when to have children from every other choice in our lives. So I'm a selfish person. And if I want to do something that would be hampered by carrying a child until it's born, well, that's easy. I make choices, and that's it. Let's see, I got somebody else here in the green room. It's none other than Senator Duenas who wants to talk about abortion. Go ahead, Chris.
Have a day, Your Honor, Honorable Marine, Honorable Senator, and my favorite talk show host. You know, I wanted to go beyond a little bit. I didn't get any coverage on this particular point, but one of my points on the floor as well of the legislature talking about the Heartbeat Act is that, or just being anti-abortion in general, is you don't even have to wear your religious stripes when you discuss this issue. Because much like Tim Rohr and in your quote, and, you know, the quote really that matters, you know, when is it right to take the life of an innocent, helpless human being? The fact is, all you really have to do is just believe in life. Because even people who absolutely come from no religious stripes at all, many still just believe in life itself. In fact, I wanted to take it a little further, just because I know even some people who are pro-abortion, which kind of, it's funny, I've had a few of these individuals that I've known in my life that they've had animals, particularly dogs, that would get up in age and slow down and start to show some signs of illness, and they'd bring the dog to the vet or the other pet into the vet, and the vet would say, you know what, this dog's got cancer, you know, really, we should just put him down. No, doc, what can you do? Well, you know, there is cancer treatment for pets as well, and we could do a regimen, probably get 6 or 8 more months. If you were lucky, I can't promise you anything, but it'd be like $10,000. Doc, do everything you can. I know people have done that.
Yeah.
My point is just simple. You believe in the life of an animal. That, yes, I can agree that many do, and I have a dog that I treat like a daughter. She lives in my house. You know,
I have a daughter that treats me like a dog. Not really.
You know, but a huge part of, I mean, a really huge part of our family. But, you know, I'm not sure that decision came along, you know, we'd have to talk about it. But I mean, it's just boils down to the basics, right? I just wanted to make that point, you know, that I think the thing is that so many of the pro-aborts want to, and absolutely with our faith, there's no question about the issue for the faithful on this issue who are following the biblical teachings. But even if you just abandon all of that and determine whether or not you believe in life or you don't believe in life, because that baby, you know, has that right to life, and the bottom line is that's all you've got to believe in. And I think that's kind of akin to what you've been saying as well.
Well, I have talked about it, and I have taken the same tack that you had. I can get to the right result without going through Catholicism on a little different basis, Chris, and that is that I am a human. And as a human, I am a sentient being. I have self-awareness. I can think. I can reason. I have various qualities that most humans have, one of which is empathy. You know, I don't have to try. It just comes natural for me to kind of put myself in the place of someone else who's injured, hurt, suffering, whatever. It makes you feel bad. You don't have to learn that. That just comes, you're kind of hardwired for that. And even without going to the religious aspects, when you stop and think what abortion means, which of course we know means taking the life of a helpless, innocent, defenseless human, just as a human being, that to me is abhorrent. And of course, it's abhorrent to our faith also. It's better articulated in our faith than what I just did, but it's very difficult to escape. And in order to escape it, people have to go through some real mental gymnastics so they can succumb to their own selfish desires instead of what they're hardwired for and what a faith makes very clear is the wrong thing to do.
Absolutely, and that's and that goes to probably why those who really have a soft spot, even for the animals that they love. I mean, that's the hardwiring that they have, even beyond their own, even beyond their own human race, right? But
yeah.
I wanted to say, Bob, that and I did mention this on the floor. I really am very proud of Senator Nelson. She endured a lot to be able to take this bill all the way to fruition and to see it through. And I know that there was a lot of very difficult moments, and that's why I wanted to make sure that I made those remarks on the floor. And she really, Bob, you can have your differences in terms of some of her other politics, but the fact is, there is no question she is an absolute true believer through and through on life and the right to life for particularly when it comes to the unborn. And I just wanted to say that, and I wanted to finish by saying Happy New Year to you and Auntie Lou and Jose and all of the Point family.
Well, thank you very much, and the same back to you, Chris. And as far as Senator Nelson is concerned, if you can throw touchdown passes, the fact that you don't look very good in a uniform kind of doesn't count, right?
Good enough.
Yeah. So, Jose, let's give Senator Nelson a big hand on her way out. Thanks for sharing that, Chris.
All right. Take care, my friend. And we'll see you in the new year, and look forward to seeing you on Monday if you arrive. I might have a couple of seats. I'm sure you have a seat there anyways, but you're welcome in my row.
Well, thank you very much, Chris. See you then.
Take care.
Yeah. So, Senator Nelson. Yeah. When you get it right on the really important issues, and it's something once again, for people that would like to be senators, if you get it really right on some of the really important issues, people can forgive if you do something they don't like on one of the minor issues. And obviously, I've scalded Senator Nelson more than once on this show, but if she got that right, that's great. I'm glad that Chris came forward and vouched for her on that, because that's really important, because I have a feeling we haven't seen the last of Talina Nelson. I certainly hope not. Okay, somebody else here in the green room. It's, I don't think he's going to share any intel with us. He wants to talk about quality of life right now. What kind of quality of life can a man have if he knows that spies from 15 different countries and hitmen from 3 different criminal organizations are watching his every move? Can't be easy to be our Carl, can it, Carl?
It's not easy, but I've got 1,000 disguises.
The one that I've seen you in, where you look like just kind of the average dork. That is some great camouflage.
It's not hard to do, believe me.
Well, I suppose you've practiced it a lot, and it's probably gotten you out of a lot of jams, huh?
Kind of second nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in about this question of quality of life, and this idea that, well, if someone's potential quality of life may be poor, maybe even bad, their life is not worth living, and the best thing to do would be to kill them, kill the person, him or her. And I just wanted to bring up about my experience with my wife. We were married 30 years, and her last 6 years she fought a battle with breast cancer. I didn't understand how aggressive her type of cancer was until later, but extremely aggressive. Her last 4 years, she was at stage 4, and fortunately, her type of cancer was somewhat responsive to Herceptin. But I did everything I could to try and turn things around. I was 100% confident. I made hundreds of green smoothies and was reading books and watching videos, trying to find scientific-based strategies to try and help her. But her cancer came out. It had recurred to her inner chest wall, and last year, toward the beginning of it, it externalized, starting as just a tiny, like a mosquito bite, and it fairly rapidly grew to several inches across on her upper left chest. She could see her ribs when she changed her bandages. She could see her beating heart.
Go ahead, Carl.
She's the bravest woman I ever knew, the hardest working woman I ever knew, and she was a wonderful mother. We were married 30 years, Bob. That last year, her quality of life was really bad. She went through intense pain. She was taking morphine tablets, and then she eventually had to take morphine liquid because the pain was so intense and she needed immediate relief. And of course, she lost weight. She had lost all her hair. Just really poor quality of life. And that last year, Bob, of our 30 years was the best year of our entire marriage. I rarely told my wife that I love her, to my shame, because I felt that word is sometimes kind of batted around a little too much, and I wanted it to be special. That last year, I told her I love her every chance I got. That was the sweetest year of 30 years of marriage, was that year when her quality of life was the absolute worst. It's kind of selfish, but I would take her back in that condition in a heartbeat.
Well, that's pretty enlightening, Carl. Thank you for sharing that experience with us.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in about the question of quality of life, and how sometimes people, even with a very poor quality of life, are very, very valued. Their lives are important, and I just wanted to chime in on that from that perspective.
Good job, Carl. I'm glad you did.
All right, Bob. That's my 2 bits for the day.
Thank you very much, sir, Carl. Yes. Very, very telling. And I can't help but pointing out, if the enlightenment that our governor and the director of BWA have shown us nowadays were in vogue, Helen Keller would have been aborted. Deaf and blind, what kind of quality of life is she going to have? Beethoven, one of the greatest composers of all time, was deaf, you know. And if you go through the pages of history, you find all kinds of people who have overcome all sorts of things. So I think when you start talking about quality of life, the best advice I could give someone who wants to start to evaluate quality of life is to shut up. Because, you know, life is it. Yeah.
Just the miracle of life is greater quality than anything else that you can imagine.
It is. It is. And as we keep talking about it on the show here, the people who at one time were Catholics, like the governor and Lou, who are now excommunicated, you know, they were Catholics at one time, have to go through all kinds of mental gymnastics to get where they are, so they can say things like, it's impossible to separate our choice of whether and when to have children from every other choice in our lives. I mean, that is so cold. But here's Jane Flores, the boss statement. I guess I better head for Churchill Downs before I start in on this.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's Best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to naktak, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tuman location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
Every company needs money to grow and take on the challenges 2023 will bring.
That's why Bank Pacific's commercial loan officers stand ready to help you.
We offer several programs tailored to assist companies to get to the next step or perhaps for a startup,
including working with SBA or GITA.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches.
Bank Pacific.
We want to be your partner.
Equal opportunity lender. Member FDIC.
Credit conditions apply.
Okay, so here we are, Churchill Downs. We got about 8 more minutes before it's time to say goodbye to the year of 2022 here on Tall Tales and to our president. One I won't miss very much. Yeah, but I want to at least start on the Bois statement on Bill 291. And this is how it starts. On behalf of women, girls, and all persons with a uterus on Guam and Micronesia. Yeah, I just can't even get through the first clause in the first sentence. Women, girls, and all persons with a uterus. Now, there are a couple of rules of statutory construction that come into play here. There's the rule expressio unius est exclusio alterius. If you stung out a list, the things in the list, the things not included in the list are excluded. And that would be, I can name several healthful fruits: oranges, apples, grapes. Did tomatoes come in there? No. Exclusio alterius. And then there's a justum generis. It goes like this. I enjoy eating fruits every day. My meals oftentimes consist of fruits like oranges, apples, pears. Would tomatoes be included there? Yeah, maybe. Yeah. You see the difference? Now, how about this? On behalf of women, girls, and all persons with a uterus. Does that imply that there are women and girls that don't have uteri? Or are there some kinds of women and girls that don't have uteri? You know, it's just, I know exactly what she's shooting at here, you know, because she's saying, all of you gentlemen out there with male plumbing, you do not have a uterus. And because you don't have a uterus, the uterus is actually connected to your jaw. And if you don't have a uterus, your jaw should be locked shut tight. Because you can't talk about these things unless you have a uterus.
But the persons with uterus, I think she's also referring to men with uterus.
It could very well be. I mean, she's come up with some woke stuff before. That's very true, yeah. The Bureau of Women's Affairs thanks the brave senators who today voted against the override of Bill 291. Bois thanks Speaker Therese Tetlahi and Senators Sabina Paris, Clint Rigel, and Pito Tetlahi for voting against the override veto yesterday of this very flawed piece of legislation. To say that this controversial piece of legislation has divided our community is not quite accurate, as the testimony against 291 and subsequent polling has shown a majority of our people, of the people in our community, believe that this issue of abortion is one that should be decided privately by the person who is pregnant in conjunction with her health professional and with whoever she deems important to help her make this private decision, said Jane Flores, Bureau of Women's Affairs Director. That was a quote from a newspaper. Yeah. So, you know, we've already exposed the fallaciousness of counting up, the faulty reasoning of counting up testimony, because six anti-abortion women went and looked at all of the testimony. Many, if not most of them, were forms, you know, just a form piece of paper. A large percentage of them came from off island. So this was the written testimony equivalent of phone banking. You know, phone banking.
Astroturfing.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with phone banking, it doesn't happen as much anymore now that we got social media. But on a talk show, you'd hear, you know, there would be people that would call up and bash one candidate or praise one of the candidates. And they would, if you listen long enough, you'd hear them on every talk show, maybe more than once. And it was a small group of people who really were not being sincere. They were kind of doing what was expected of them, maybe even doing what they're getting paid to do. So you couldn't give a whole lot of weight to a phone banker. And that's the same impression I have of the flood of testimony in the opposition to 291. And then my second approach to that is Mox Next. What difference does it make? You know, we don't run a direct democracy where we decide what we're going to do based on some sort of a phony mail-in ballot, right?
Like we're going to legislate something that's horrible just because the majority likes it.
Exactly. And then Tim, in his column Jungle Watch, really let the air out of Holly Rustic's pro-abortion tire when she said that it was the job of a senator to be responsive to the people. Tim pointed out that senators take an oath. That's their job description, to support the Constitution and laws of the United States and Guam. So if that's your strongest argument, you're weak. So going on with, wait a minute, it's already that time, isn't it?
Yep.
I'll see if I can get through Biden's blunder here. Biden's tenuous grasp of mass leads him to make grandiose and untrue claims about how his policies benefit Americans. If your home is powered by safer, cheaper, cleaner electricity like solar heat pumps, you can save about $500 a month on the average, Biden said. He touted Democrats' green energy proposals. Hours later, the White House quietly corrected the official transcripts of the president's remarks, crossing out the word month and inserting the word year in its place. $500 a year. Yeah, $500 a month, $500 a year. What difference does it make, right? In other words, Biden's costly climate change plans would save Americans less than $42 a month, making his original claim wildly inflated by a factor of 12. Biden. So we'll have one of these every day, but right now it's time for this whole year. Let's go, Brandon. And you tailgaters out there, we'll see you all next year.
Is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Bringing light back to Ukraine. I'm Jessica Stone, Fox News. Utility crews are working to restore power in Odessa and Lviv after what Ukrainian officials say was a massive missile attack by Russia. Fox's Nate Foy reports in Kyiv.
Ukraine says Russia launched 69 cruise missiles and 11 Iranian-made Shahed drones at various targets across the country. Every drone was shot down, but 15 missiles made it through the country's air defense. Now millions of people don't have power, and 2 people were killed. During this morning's strike, Belarus claims a Ukrainian missile landed in its territory. President Alexander Lukashenko is aware of it. It's unclear exactly how he will respond or if it will bring Belarus deeper into this war.
Despite ongoing attacks, Russian President Vladimir Putin is expressing interest in peace talks. President Biden has signed the $1.7 trillion omnibus federal spending bill into law, keeping the government open through September. Included in that bill, a ban on TikTok on government-issued devices.
The Chinese Communist Party has way too much control over the content. They have too much influence on the algorithms. They have access to the information, personal information of 100 million Americans and others worldwide.
New York Republican Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis speaking on Fox's The Story. The U.S. military says a Chinese Navy fighter jet flew within 20 feet of an Air Force reconnaissance plane over the South China Sea earlier this month. The American pilot had to maneuver to avoid a collision. The U.S. military says he was conducting lawful operations at the time. And California is bracing for a deluge, raising flooding concerns in the north and central part of the state. In the Sierra Nevada, up to another 5 feet of snow is possible, causing an avalanche watch to be issued. America is listening to Fox News.